Even though title here is reference to a movie, we can still have fun with it in a way. So let's start with the good. As this update rolled out, I was surprised that devs didn't really break anything. I mean, for this sized patch, it's bound to be screwed up even a little bit. But no, it seems the 2 cold tears were the only buggy thing that people noticed. Now this I love to see, a well executed patch, and for this my faith in devs have been somewhat restored, so good job there. Next we have construction system itself. Well, what can I say? I finally can have huge fights in between bases on open fields, and this is what I hoped for so long. Even though I guess it wasn't the intention from devs to have this kind of effect, it's still a great side effect. Man, now Planetside does feel very different, to be honest. Another thing that struck me was that construction system puts a large emphasis on vehicular battles. I don't know about you, but I love a huge slugfest with tanks. And thanks to buildings, you have to use vehicles to destroy them. So at last, all the vehicles get really important role in the game, and they're not seen as only third grinders. As it goes, buildings are quite spongy, so on small squad battles, taking down buildings is very hard, so even with small group, you can create a pretty good fort that will hold for long time. And really, this is something to be loved. While on larger battles, NGs will have to work harder fixing all the buildings. So those of you who are not good with shooting will still occupy an important role, and as a byproduct you will grind certs as crazy. So, in short, this seems to be NG vehicle focused update, and even though I'm maining on Infiltrator, I love this idea. But why would we have to build bases, nor destroy them in fact? Well, there is this building called Hive, which produces victory points. When Hive is created on friendly territory, it will generate victory points. The closer it is to enemy warp gate, the more efficient it will be. That is, how many lattice links that Hive is away from enemy warp gate. So, if enemy decides to build lots and lots of hives, they will gain more victory points over time. And eventually they will lock the continent, giving that faction the bonus that continent gives. So instead of going around and capturing those old bases, now you can create your own. And this, to be honest, is an amazing alternative to taking territory. Well, in a way anyways. See, as I said, you have to put Hive on your faction's controlled territory, otherwise it won't accumulate victory points. So taking bases to a certain point is still required. But okay, let's presume you don't want to constantly protect your Hive, you just want to take bases. No, construction system can help you with that too. Scribe Walls and simple walls are fantastic obstacles and cover when you advance on enemy base or try to protect your Sunday, so it's useful anywhere, except no deploy build areas. Essentially, construction system is great at filling the space between bases, and still for that I thank you devs. Now, I'm sure there are some other good parts that I didn't mention, but that's enough for now. Let's get on with the bad part. First bad thing I noticed in this system was that deploying walls and Sunday garage was rather problematic at best, and many of my outfit mates, me included, said that it would be neat if we could tilt or rotate these structures in more than just one way. So I would say the deployment needs a little bit more work. Moving on, one thing I already mentioned was that buildings are quite spongy. They are so spongy that it's pretty impossible to destroy what one player has placed if you are alone as well. But you know, I like this way a lot more than the other way. Still, some balancing ought to be done, starting with AI controlled turrets. And trust me when I say that they mow you down instantly. And speaking of Infiltrator, no, you can't hack anything, which is extremely disappointing, as they would have such a great opportunity with this update to offer this infiltration class some actual use, but oh well. Another thing that people talked about was changing meta game. While it is true that you can take continent, or at least help taking it with the new system, it still doesn't change the fact that we are going around taking bases and locking continents for some time. It doesn't really add any global goal that Planetside has needed since day one. It has added new tools to our tool belt, but the end result looks the same. You really don't have that feeling of grand accomplishment when you lock the continent, and I'm sure platoon leaders can relate. It would help if we had continental lattice, or better yet something like World Domination Series scoring system, where faction as a whole is fighting for victory over several days or weeks. While I agree that we have amazing fights in between bases, which I totally love, those are still fights for about the same thing, either grinding certs or taking continent. Now, one quick thing, if you get a squad or two in Gals or Valkyries and fly up to enemy base, you can drop and destroy their hive, pretty much in instant. And you know, these types of cheese tactics make defending bases impossible at times, and there has to be something done to prevent this. And so finally, last two worst things about this construction system: the unmistakable smell of pay to win and unfriendly environment for new players, or even for returning ones. Let me elaborate. So first things first, to build anything you have to go out and collect resources to build stuff. But you know, you can buy those buildings with Daybreak Cash, making all that gathering pointless. Sure, it costs you quite a bit, but this shouldn't be allowed at all. Seriously, unlocking stuff is sort of one thing, but buying something you can actually place in the game world without putting in effort is pay to win thing. I say this must be removed immediately. Seriously devs, do you need money so much? All in all, this is just disappointing. But you know what's even more disappointing? How new player unfriendly this system is. By default, you can build following things: Cortium Silo, Bunker, Anti-Infantry Turret, and Rampart Wall. And Hive if you have reached level 15, which I actually agree with. Rest of the buildings you have to unlock, which would be fine if you didn't have to spend 8,000 certs to do so. Sure, we old vets have enough to buy everything, but for new players, even getting 1,000 certs is a huge pain in the ass. And by level 15 at best, you will have around 3,000 certs. Mind you, this is not to count in all the ant upgrades. Now honestly, how do you expect new players interested in this system to enjoy it if everything costs so damn much? And let me put this in terms you might understand. To unlock all the buildings with money, you will have to spend $36. Does that sound reasonable? Seriously, I know that this is free to play game, but for that money you can almost get Overwatch or Battlefield. What worries me more is that there are no in-game explanations what to do, and this, to be honest, is quite sad. Oh well, that was the bad part. Now on to the ugly. And you know, to balance it out, let's throw in some good things too. So the beautiful or nice things aesthetically for construction system are obviously models that look decent or even nice. I frankly enjoyed the dome shield that was on test server for a while ago, put on amp stations and some other bases, and now it has returned in the form of Scribe Wall. Oh man, I do love a good shield, and this one looks really nice. Also, it's very nice to see colored borders that indicate where you can and can't place your buildings. So good job there, but unfortunately that's about it on my side at least. The ugly part here is that modules like Skywall Emitter, Structure Shield module, Repair and Turret AI modules all look the same. They are only distinguishable with icon on top of them, which are often hard to make out. Now, would it hurt to make models visually a bit different? This would only improve our experience after all. Next, there is the elephant in the room called generic design. While I like most models, they are all made in Nanite Systems style. The reason why this is bad is that in Planetside we have 3 different looking factions that share some common pool items. Not common pool with some little things for those 3 different factions. And the more I look at it, the more Planetside becomes this massive grey blob when factions blend together. If this continues, it soon won't matter which team you're on. Also, it might be my cynicism talking right now, but I don't think that devs will add any Empire specific buildings at all, or any buildings for that matter. So what you see is what you get, but I really hope I'm wrong on this one. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the system. Now, it might sound like I dislike the system, but there are amazingly good things that I brought up. My favorite one, of course, is the great battles between bases. And for that I say great thank you to devs. But there are the bad sides of course as well, like the pay to win smell and general unfriendliness towards new players. As for the question, is it worth coming back or trying out the game? Yes, absolutely, it's free to play, you can easily drop in and out if you want. And even if you can't build much, you can still help your team by protecting buildings or fixing them. And that's always gonna be needed. So get your NG gear and head on down to Araxis.